Are you like a lot of crafters with a million rolls of washi tape sitting around your house? Stick with me for the next 8 minutes or so, and I'll show you a creative, fun, colorful way to use up some of that washi tape. I start with a piece of watercolor paper and some washi. I'm using this washi that is really wide. I like the pattern, but I just haven't had a lot of uses for it. So I just start sticking it down. And as I'm sticking it down, I make sure that I start creating creases and folds in the washi tape. And this is what is going to create the beautiful texture that you get in the end of this piece. I just might, it's easiest if you pull off maybe 4 to 6 inch pieces of washi at a time. If you do much more than that, it gets a little hard to handle, and then you're also not going to have as much control over where you put it. So that works out well. And as you're going, I just try to make sure you're sticking it down as much as possible. And as you can see, I didn't have a pattern in mind here. I just stuck the washi tape down until I decided I didn't want to stick any more washi tape down. And I love the result. It kind of looks like an amoeba to me, which is pretty fun. And as I finished, I just went through and I made sure everything was really stuck down so that the next step would be a little easier, which is covering your creation with gesso or paint. I prefer gesso because it gives me a little tooth to the surface so that the next media will stick better. Acrylic paint in white or any color you choose would work really well and probably take fewer layers. I wasn't concerned about completely covering my pattern, so it only took 3 layers to get to where I wanted to be. If I was trying to completely cover it, it probably would have been 5 or 6 layers, and you still might have been able to see a little bit peeking out. As you're going, use your brush to get under those layers and turn your painting around occasionally so that you can see if there are any areas that you've missed. It was all dry. I let it dry overnight. Normally I would just wait a couple of hours, but I had some other things to do. I added a craft mat because the next part's going to be a little messy. I got a spray bottle, and then I also have 2 India inks, black and white. India ink is one of my favorite media ever. I also have some Daler Rowney acrylic inks, and those are what I'm going to use first because I wanted to get a lot of color onto this page. So I didn't have a design in mind for this. I just started putting ink down. I just started dripping it wherever looked fun, and then I used the spray bottle to put some water on it to help the ink move. And then the easiest and most fun part of this is moving the paint around, or the paint, the ink, whatever you're using. I added some pink here, and I love these 2 colors, but my favorite part of the 2 colors is that when they are mixed together, they form this beautiful purple color, and you'll see it in a few minutes. I'll point it out. But it just starts blending so beautifully. Yeah. And as you can see, because of the tape, like it's going to pool in different places. So some places will be darker and some places will be lighter. And then you can use it, you can keep using the water bottle as long as you like, but just remember every time you use the spray bottle, you're watering down the color too. So you might end up having to add some more. In this case, I was adding more just because I hadn't put enough down yet. There were areas I hadn't even put any color on, so that was my next step, is just making sure I had the color everywhere I wanted it to be. This pink actually looks a little bit washed out in this video. Not sure why, but hopefully the pictures at the end will show you how vibrant it really is. And also in a few seconds you'll see that I add another layer. I did let it completely dry in between. I used my heat gun a little, but mostly I just did the dishes and cooked lunches for the week while I waited for it to dry. And then I came back and added more ink. Some of my favorite parts, if you look at the top, there are these 3 purple lines. That was a complete accident. I just picked up the thing and started tapping it, and there was some ink that hadn't completely dried, and as it came out really thick. I wish I could recreate that. Maybe I will make some attempts to recreate that. And here you see that I'm finally bringing in the India ink. And basically, I didn't want to overwhelm the piece with black, or I didn't want to overwhelm the piece with black. So I just put a few drops in a couple of different places. It's actually pretty fun to watch it react with the other ink on the page, because it starts to kind of fractal out. It's hard to see with the zoom on this video, but it just starts to make its own patterns. Even if you didn't do anything to the ink, it would start to make its own patterns. But I choose to do things, and the main thing I choose to do is to tap this piece of paper, and I am not gentle while I'm doing this. Next, I brought in the white. Unfortunately, the black immediately consumed it. It does stand out a little bit at the end, but it basically, like, it's almost like the black soaks it in. So it did end up turning kind of this gray color in some places that I really liked. It also seemed to create some cells almost if you were looking really closely, which is kind of a cool effect. And again, tapping and tapping and tapping, not being gentle at all. This is one of the advantages to having really heavy paper. You don't have to worry about it folding during this tapping process. Finally, I like to add splatter to things, so I use some black spray ink. I actually water it down a little and it comes out to this beautiful gray color when it dries. Splatter that all over everything, including myself. And then I also like to use a little bit of Heidi Swap Color Shine in Gold. I have other colors, but I use the gold all the time. And really, I just take it right out of the bottle. I don't use a brush or anything for this. And once I'm done with the Heidi Shine, I'm done with this piece. Sometimes I'll add collage elements or a quote or something to it, but I really liked how this turned out just after the Heidi Shine, and my cat approves, so it's done. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you take the time to try this technique. Use up some of that washi tape that you've had sitting around for a while. I'll have another video next week, and in the meantime, check me out on Instagram at Cagelio. Hope you have a great day.